Let's get right into it. Number 11. The twin sacrifices. Scientists found something dark in an ancient Maya water tank. Over 100 children's bones, all boys between 3 and 6 years old. DNA tests showed many of these boys were brothers. Several of them were identical twins. The Maya had stories about twin heroes who went to the underworld. These heroes died and came back to life over and over. The Maya recreated this story by sacrificing real twins. The tank wasn't just for storing water. The Maya believed these underground chambers were doorways to the underworld. They turned their water storage into ritual killing grounds. Scientists found traces of blue paint on their bones. The Maya painted these kids blue before the ceremony, marking them as offerings to the rain god. More rain meant better corn harvests. The bones tell us these sacrifices went on for 400 years. Number 10. The Book of Death. We found a massive scroll in an Egyptian tomb. This thing is 52 feet long, about as long as 3 cars parked end to end. The scroll is an ancient cheat sheet for the afterlife. It's filled with spells, prayers, and instructions on how to dodge deadly traps in the underworld. Think of it as a video game guide, but for death. The ancient Egyptians used 2 colors of ink that's still bright after 2,000 years. Red ink for dangerous stuff like demons and monsters. Black ink for good stuff like gods and protection spells. In the judgment scene, your heart gets weighed against a feather. If your heart was heavier than the feather, you'd get eaten by a monster that's part crocodile, part lion, and part hippo. Rich Egyptians would order custom versions, picking which spells they wanted. It cost about half of what a worker made in a year, like ordering a deluxe package for the afterlife. Number 9. The Chalk Drum. Scientists found 3 children buried together in a grave from 5,000 years ago in Yorkshire. The smallest kids were holding each other, while the oldest had their arm wrapped around them. Next to the eldest child's head sat a small chalk cylinder. The surface was covered in perfect geometric patterns, circles within circles, every line carved with incredible precision. The drum is only a few inches wide, but the detail is mind-blowing. The patterns are so perfect they look machine-made. Keep in mind, this thing is older than the pyramids. The patterns match designs found at Stonehenge, which was being built around the same time. Scientists think these patterns might be an ancient measurement system. The ancient Brits might have used them to plan out massive structures like Stonehenge. The most incredible part is that it's made of chalk. Chalk is super soft and breaks easily, yet somehow this thing survived 5,000 years underground without turning to dust. This is only the 4th chalk drum ever found in Britain. The other 3 were discovered 15 miles away, over 100 years ago. All of them were found in children's graves. Number 8. The Ancient Puppets. Something creepy was found recently in El Salvador. Clay puppets from 2,400 years ago, sitting on top of a pyramid. These aren't normal dolls. They're about a foot tall with faces that can change expression. The heads are detachable, connected by strings through tiny holes in the neck. There are 5 puppets total, 4 women and 1 man. Each one has an open mouth frozen in mid-speech. The male puppet is covered in marks that look like tattoos or battle scars. Depending on how you tilt the head, the puppet's expression changes completely. One moment it looks happy, tilt it slightly, and it becomes angry or scared. These ancient puppet makers knew exactly what they were doing. The ancient people believed that acting out a story made it real. These puppets were used in rituals to bring old legends back to life. While crowds watched from below, puppet masters would make these clay figures dance and speak. Number 7. The Cave of Swords. Deep in the cliffs near the Dead Sea, scientists found a cave filled with Roman weapons. 4 perfectly preserved Roman swords, 1,900 years old. Look like they could have been made yesterday. The swords still have their wooden handles, leather covers, and steel blades intact. Usually wood and leather rot away after a few hundred years, but the desert air in this cave kept everything perfectly preserved, like nature's freezer. These weren't cheap weapons. They're Roman spathas, the kind of swords used by elite soldiers and gladiators. The craftsmanship is perfect. Balance, razor-sharp edges, wooden handles still intact. Jewish rebels stole these weapons during their fight against Rome. When the Romans came looking for their weapons, the rebels hid them in this cave. They probably planned to come back for them later, but they never did, and the weapons sat there untouched for almost 2,000 years. The cave sits near an oasis called Ein Gedi, so remote and hard to reach that looters never found it. While tourists splash around in the Dead Sea below, these ancient weapons were sitting in darkness above them. Number 6. The Circle of Skeletons. We found something straight out of a horror movie under Mexico City. 10 skeletons arranged in a perfect circle, their arms linked together like they're frozen in an ancient dance. These bones are 2,400 years old, way before the Aztecs showed up. The skeletons include teenagers, adults, a young kid, and even a month-old baby, all carefully placed to form this creepy spiral. Some of the skulls were shaped on purpose, squished and molded when the person was still alive. These weren't poor people either. They were buried with fancy bowls and special stones. The circle is so perfect it lines up with the spiral shape of the Milky Way. Scientists think this wasn't just a burial, but some kind of ritual we don't understand. Maybe they were trying to connect the dead with the stars above. These 10 people have been holding hands underground for over 2,000 years. Number 5. The diplomatic spider monkey. Scientists found something wild under an ancient plaza in Mexico. A spider monkey skeleton, but not just any monkey. This was a diplomatic gift from 1700 years ago. The monkey was found buried in Teotihuacan, a massive ancient city known for its huge pyramids. Spider monkeys don't live anywhere near there. They're from the tropical Maya regions, hundreds of miles away. Looking at the monkey's bones told an incredible story. This female monkey grew up eating fruits in a tropical forest. Then suddenly her diet changed to corn and chili peppers, the ancient equivalent of moving from a 5-star restaurant to fast food. The Maya specifically chose a spider monkey because these animals were sacred to them. It's like ancient version of China sending pandas to other countries. Scientists found her with her limbs tied up. She was sacrificed in a ritual, buried with golden eagles and fancy artifacts. She wasn't just a pet. She was a living peace treaty between two powerful civilizations. Number 4. The Ukrainian Stonehenge. Yeah, there's a Stonehenge in the forests of Ukraine. Some of these rocks tower 5 meters high, about as tall as a giraffe. The boulders form weird patterns and shapes, with some balanced on top of each other like a giant's game of Jenga. Scientists found 2 huge footprints carved into the stone. One points east, the other west. The rocks have strange cracks running through them that line up perfectly with north, south, east, and west, like some ancient compass. Between 2 of the biggest stones, there's a tiny gap that barely fits a person. The locals named these the God's Stone and the Devil's Stone. According to legend, this wasn't a bunch of rocks. It was a village. When God came disguised as a traveler asking for food, a villager handed him a stone instead of bread. So God turned every house in the village into a boulder, leaving his footprint as a warning. Some scientists think these rocks were pushed here by ancient glaciers. Others say they're the leftovers of mountains that existed millions of years ago. Number 3. The 2 species footprints. Scientists found something incredible in Kenya. Footprints from 2 different human ancestors walking in the same spot. These 1.5-million-year-old tracks were preserved in ancient mud near a lake. One set belongs to Homo erectus, our direct ancestor. They walked like us, made tools, and knew how to use fire. The other set belongs to Paranthropus boisei, which were built like human nutcrackers with huge jaw muscles and massive teeth for crushing tough plants. The footprints were made within hours of each other. Both species walked the exact same patch of ancient lakeshore. One of them even stepped in a hippo print, slipping just like we would today. The mud preserved every detail. You can see their toes pressed into the ground. Even the arch of their feet left marks. Around these human prints were tracks from hippos, birds, and other animals. The whole scene was frozen in time when the mud turned to stone. This is the first solid proof these 2 species actually crossed paths. Before this, scientists could only guess if they ever met. Now we know they walked the same ground, breathed the same air, and watched each other from a distance. Number 2. The Cusco Tunnels. Deep under the streets of Cusco, Peru, lies a massive network of tunnels stretching over a mile long. The main tunnel runs from their holiest temple straight to a massive fortress called Sacsayhuaman. The Incas built these tunnels with the same precision they used for their famous temples above ground. Every wall is perfectly cut, every beam precisely placed. The Spanish wrote about these tunnels back in the 1500s. They described a massive labyrinth where people would get lost for days. The locals called it the Chincana, literally meaning the place where one gets lost. Scientists finally proved the Spanish weren't making this up. Using ground radar, they found the tunnels running right under modern Cusco. They snake under churches, houses, and streets that were built centuries later. Number 1. The L-shaped mystery. Scientists found something weird under the pyramids of Giza, a massive L-shaped structure buried in the sand. This structure is huge, about the size of 3 school buses parked in an L shape. It sits about 6 feet under the ground in the Western Cemetery. That's where all the fancy people from ancient Egypt were buried. The structure is so perfectly L-shaped that scientists know humans must have built it. Nature doesn't make perfect right angles like that. The whole thing is filled with sand. Not natural sand that blew in over time, but sand that was deliberately packed in there. It's like the ancient Egyptians built this thing and then decided to bury it on purpose. Using ground-penetrating radar, scientists spotted hints of another structure below it. Whatever's down there is giving off strange electrical readings. It could be a hidden chamber or a tunnel system we never knew about. Right under the feet of tourists taking selfies with the pyramids, there's this ancient secret waiting to be uncovered. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.